Okay, I guess we're all good to go?
Yep.
Okay. Keiko, did you want to lead that off with the just a statement about COVID and what have you?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Because of the COVID-19 emergency and state and federal guidance on large meetings or gatherings and pursuant to the mayor's proclamation regarding COVID-19, Community Development Plan Action Committee meetings will be held online until further notice. Members of the public have the option to watch the CDP Action Committee meetings live on the Planning Department's Zoom channel or the Planning Department's YouTube channel, or join the meeting by Zoom link. And so I see we have two members from the community with us tonight, Chuck and Pulelehua, which we appreciate you guys tuning in. Mahalo.
Before we get to the introductions and the requests, I just want to welcome everybody who I can see and those who are streaming perhaps that I cannot, for taking your time to be on, to be attending this meeting. We very much, appreciate the participation of everyone. I think it just enriches some of the work that we do. So thank you very much for everyone who's present. Heather, you're doing introductions or reintroductions?
Aloha, everybody. Sorry, forgive me. I've been working on the tech side of things and I'm not quite used to doing that yet. So still getting my feet wet here. But I'm really excited to be back. It's really, really great to see some familiar faces and looking forward to getting to know some new faces. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Heather was with us a while
2 years
back.
ago.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too far back. You just don't look that old. So, yeah. So, should I go on with the rules in terms of how we want to conduct this Zoom meeting? I think.
Oh, here. Sorry, Uncle Charlie. I can continue.
All right.
Okay, so we request that all participants on Zoom observe the following. One person speaks at a time. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand or use the raise your hand function and wait for recognition from the chair before speaking. Please note that the Zoom chat function is not readily viewable by the public and may not be reflected in the official meeting minutes. Members of the public may use the chat function and their input is valued and will be noted by planning staff. However, members of the public are encouraged to sign up to provide public testimony or alternatively submit written testimony to ensure their comments can be incorporated into the discussion and minutes. Please silence your cell phones and other devices or distractions. Before I turn it over to Uncle Charlie, would anyone like me to walk through the raise hand or chat feature? Okay, hearing none, if everybody's comfortable, I'll turn it over. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
real quick, Uncle Charlie, I'm so sorry. I introduced our two community members who are tuning in, but I didn't introduce Paka. Paka Davis is a Lead for Hawaii Fellow, and he's working with the planning department. And so he's tuning in. I just wanted to make sure everybody recognized faces on here.
Great. Yeah, well, we should also introduce staff. I mean, Heather's introduced herself, Keiko and Alexis. And I see we have a council member here, Oleka.
Aloha, Kako.
Aloha. And I believe Natasha is going to be helping us with a presentation as well. And then when I get to the roll call, we'll have each one of the committee members introduce themselves. So I'm going to call a meeting to order. Generally, when I do this, well, I always have since I've been chair, is I do a little olelo no eau so that I can set myself as to sort of like how I want to approach the meeting. And, you know, I depend heavily on Olelo no Ea book and some of the things that my tutus may have said at one time or another, but this one's pretty easy. It's Uamau ke ea o kaine ke pono. And if you haven't heard that, then maybe you should move out of state. But it's a simple thing. The life of the land is preserved in righteousness. It's our state motto. It was coined at a time when Hawaii's sovereignty was at stake. It was coined by Kauikeo Aoli when when the sovereignty of Hawaii was being jeopardized by Britain and some of the other foreign powers. And I think it's back in 1843. And we literally translated to the life of the land is preserved in righteousness, which means, it's sacred to us and we want to preserve it. But if you look at some of the Kona in that, it also means that the life of the land, the perpetuation of our land, the health of our land, the future of our land is dependent on righteous. And it's not just the righteous acts, it's the righteous people. So the return of the land into the hands of the righteous also describes the land being returned back to the nation of Hawaii, and the Hawaiians who had for so many years taken care of the Aina and prospered from it. So here we are, 100-something years later, and I kind of look at what we're doing as righteous work, and I want you to treat it, council or committee members, as the same, and those who work with the committee officially or not. It's just the work that we do is very important. I wouldn't elevate myself to righteousness. I'm far from it, but I think the work that we do, we need to take it along those lines, because we shouldn't be in a situation of push and pull, us or them. It's about the Aina, it's about our environment, it's about our well-being, it's about our health, spiritual as well as physical. So anyway, that's my Olelo no ea for today. You should all be able to remember that one. So I will go on to the roll call, and committee members, if you would just unmute and say aye, so Heather can hear, as well as perhaps maybe raising your hand. So David?
Aye.
Kari?
Aye.
Shirley?
Aye.
Charles, me, hello. Marissa?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I think, so absent would be Rosalind, Janice, Shane, and at the moment, Franz. Okay, great. Okay, so are there any changes to the agenda or any suggestions on, anybody want to suggest any changes to the agenda? I don't think we received any. Oh, okay. So do we need a motion to approve the agenda, or can we just go forward as it's printed?
Yep, we can just move forward.
Okay, fine. So the first is the announcements, and I don't have anything, to announce, I think, at this point. So I'll turn it over to Keiko for the first item regarding the general plan update.
Awesome. So we have similar update to last meeting. The administration has been working to launch and implement the new Electronic Processing and Information Center, or better known as EPIC, this new permitting system. And so now that EPIC is up and running, more time will shift to the priority of reviewing and evaluating the general plan comprehensive review. So this will include an updated timeline, additional public input, and an outline of the adoption process. So we will be sure to update our website as soon as new information is available. And I think that most of you are signed up to receive on our GP mailing list, so you would receive an update as well. And as action committee members, you would definitely be receiving any updates as we move forward. And then I have a second announcement. Folks from Community First Healthcare Initiative reached out, and so their Community First and its partners, which include county, UH, there's a whole bunch of players included in that. They're surveying Hawaii Island residents throughout the month of November to better understand what communities need to improve their own health. The survey is part of Access to Care, a collaborative that's working to transform healthcare on Hawaii Island. And so we'll drop some links into the chat, but we'll also send these links and a short video kind of describing what their outreach is about to you folks in our follow-up email. And that will be, community members included, as long as we have your contact information.
Thank you. So the next item is just public comment on agenda items. Generally, the format that we follow is that the public will testify or comment in the beginning of the meeting on any agenda item, which I would still want to give people opportunity to do so. But also, as the chair, I've also encouraged people to also testify while the agenda item is being discussed by the AC members, because sometimes, thoughts come in after the presentation that they might want to join in the conversation. So I would encourage that. What we need to do, though, however, is to keep track of our time and make sure that, we do this in a succinct way as possible, but yet not discourage, the people from really expressing their concerns and their thoughts. So Chuck, I know you had sent in a letter, which I only received today, by the way, but you had indicated that you wanted to testify on sort of two items. One was going to be the general plan update, and the other was going to be, I believe, on business item 3, which is the implementation updates from Action Committee members. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we will maybe do you want to get through the minutes now, Keiko, or shall we defer that and then kind of let Chuck have a discussion, since you brought the general plan up already? I know it's not a business item, but I just wanted to make sure that since it's fresh in his mind or fresh in our minds, maybe he can go ahead and make the comment now.
Sure.
Okay, can I get a move to just defer the minutes to the end of the meeting? Approval of the September 9th meeting?
I move to defer.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so we got a motion to defer and a second to move the minutes on the agenda back to the end of the item. I should have taken this up earlier, but all in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move that to the end. So Chuck, you want to go ahead and comment on the general plan update?
Yes, sir. I apologize for having just submitted the letter, but I'm just now coming back to Hawaii after being gone for quite some time, so I've been very busy. But I did want to share my concerns with the general plan update, and a concern I've been expressing to the planning department. Basically, my concern is that if you look at the 1971 general plan, and here I have a copy of the 1989 plan that I had gotten from back when the 2005 update was done, the format was pretty much the same. And so there was a Ramsayer version that allowed us to see what changes were being made, so we would know exactly have an idea of what possible impacts were. Unfortunately, the draft that's being proposed is completely, it's like, well, I call it gut and replace, because there's no reference whatsoever to the prior general plan. And my concern is I have no idea what's the impact on legal precedent, whether it enhances them, whether it undermines them. I have no idea, how departments and divisions in the county might be impacted, or the Kona Community Development Plan, the implementation of that. So I don't understand why the planning department decided to proceed in this manner in a way that had not been done in 1989 and 2005. So I would either ask them to, I guess, go back to the drawing board, or to somehow create a matrix that shows us what protections and what measures within the existing general plan are still covered by the proposed general plan, and perhaps what enhancements and improvements have been made. In addition to that, this is another matter I had been bringing up with the planning department for quite some time, and that is the fact the LUPIG map needs to be adjusted for the the resort node at Hokulea. That was ruled to be invalid by the Third Circuit Court. In addition, that the entire area, basically, they were supposed to go to Land Use Commission and have it redesignated as rural. So I would hope that the general plan would be amended to include that. With regard to flood control, I've been going through old boxes and I found a trove of documents that relates to the Chapter 27 flood control and Chapter 10 soil erosion control from several years ago, and it has a lot of information. I know that Sue Aronson had expressed a desire to join the flood control committee. And so I'm hoping we can all sit down and go over these documents and maybe start giving us a basis. It also has all the mapping that was done, LiDAR mapping, that whole process that the county went through years ago to map the FEMA flood channels. So there's a lot of information there, and I hope to be able to share it with the committee. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate the letter, but because it did come in late, I didn't think there was going to be an opportunity for us to really get into the details with the action committee to get into a discussion any deeper than you already have. So I think there will be an appropriate time for that to be discussed, and I think some of those issues have to really be addressed by the planning department. But I appreciate it. So we're putting it's in the record. And as such, I think we'll expect to have some kind of follow-up on that, and we'll see where that takes us in terms of addressing them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't know if I was muted or what, but so if there are no other comments, I wanted to get into business item number 1, which was the Kona open space, and welcome, Janice. Get into the Kona open space update. Long-range planner Natasha Soriano will provide action committee with an update on the scope, key activities, dates, and next steps relative to the Kona Open Space Network contract.
Everybody, thank you for having me. Is everybody, I assume everybody is familiar with Kona Open Space. Otherwise, I can give a little brief overview. So in the community development plan, it calls for the establishment of a Kona Open Space Network program to enhance the opportunities of residents and visitors to engage in recreational, educational, subsistence, and gathering activities. And apologies, I did not prepare a slide. It was kind of more, this is kind of like a more informal update. So the network would consist of managed hubs of natural, cultural, and developed resources that are interlinked by trails and corridors. So this project, I'm new to the project. I will most likely be the face of the project in managing it. I also have some help from Rob Leisure, who used to also help with the CDP. So he will also be a point of contact. And so in our discussions, we kind of recognize a link between having to have Parks and Rec and DPW involved in this conversation. As far as updates go, I did send out an updated scope of work to the subcommittee. So Janice, Kari, and Shirley all got that. I think in the email, it did say November 10th, but I actually realized we sent that out pretty late. So Janice, Shirley, Kari, if you can give me comments by the 20th, that would be greatly appreciated, and then we can move on. So we're awaiting the subcommittee comments. And if the subcommittee would like to have a meeting, please reach out and we can discuss a little bit more on the scope and some of the direction. As I mentioned before, we were recognizing we needing a partnership between DPW and Parks and Rec so that we can ensure the implementation of such a program. So we'll be working with them on orienting them to the idea of the Kona open space. It's really moving into that space where we're trying to break down these silos. And hopefully that would give us across the board ownership from the county. And another point to make would be, so we're also still looking at the top 3 vendors from our last review when we were about to go last time. And so that was G70, SSFM, and Wilson Okamoto. We'll probably ask for a restatement of qualifications and also look again with the more current list of professional services to see if there's any other vendors that could fit possibly in our evaluation. And then so we're looking for updating the vendor review sometime in December and hopefully target selection for the consultant by the end of January. So those are some kind of dates I have for you guys in terms of updating. If you have any questions, I'll take them. And if I don't have the answer, I'll get back to you.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So, I think the beginnings of this is going to require a lot of outreach, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's going to be the difficulty when we are still doing meetings via Zoom. And so, as much as I want to get this going, I mean, can't underline how excited I am. However, I also want us to be, still cognizant of not getting started so early that we can't really have some good working meetings, because I think that's important. And this format is really difficult for that kind of communication. So I just wanted to express that. As much as I want to get going, I just don't see our really big public meetings happening anytime soon. And I don't care for this format for that kind of information gathering. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, duly noted. Yes, Janice.
Yeah, thanks, Kari. I really appreciate that comment. I think that that's gonna. So, is there going to be a time in the near future where some, meetings, come and go, open housey, something that could happen with the public to join in that would fit with the COVID protocols? Is there any hope of something in person happening? Not that would be the desired format.
That might be a question more for Keiko. I mean, I would assume that with the rise in vaccination that we'll soon see other restrictions lifted as far as public meetings go. This has also been a really good time for some of these consultants to have created more creative strategies of how they would engage folks. I do hear you. I'm on another project here in Keaukaha and facing the challenges of having kupuna who are not able to participate in online surveys and things like that. And so we're trying. It might not be. It may be more intimate. And we can. And again, for those for Janice, you're on the committee too. Like maybe that's something you can write in the comments for our scope. And that if that's something we haven't thought about, that we have to outline how we're engaging the community in this time to maybe have that more specific and maybe look at the different options of having smaller intimate gatherings to be able to message this a little bit better. The design charrettes and things like that usually are quite large. But I also think, in all honesty, I've seen some really great creative things come out of Zoom meetings. I've seen interactive whiteboards where, maybe it'd be even easier for ideas to flow. And so finding the right fit for a consultant that can have that on the ground experience, but also have really good technology in order to help bridge that gap. I think that would be really important when we review our consultants.
So I could see where that would help. I feel like that in the last couple of years, we've kind of lost the engagement of people who just aren't into attending Zoom meetings, and they're just not going to. And a lot of those people have really taken part in the past and have a lot of valuable input. So as much as that's one way, and I appreciate any way that we can, the more people we can engage, the better. I think, because that's what the community development plan's about. But just that comment, because I just know a lot of people just aren't attending anything anymore, and it's really it's kind of tragic.
Yeah,
but
I
also
mean,
the dynamic of everything that's happening in planning and in
yeah.
aspects.
Yeah,
you.
so yeah, it'll really need to be a balance because there are those people who are just like, I don't want to attend a physical
go away.
meeting anymore either. Yeah.
Thanks.
Wait,
So I'm also thinking that maybe if when we give you the comments back, this is for the committee members, there might be an opportunity for us to have a meeting with you after you've gone through the comments, so we can talk about what the strategies are next for us and how we can interact more.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
would be
so yeah,
Hmm.
and even if before we could do that up right after we receive your comments, Rob and I are happy to open that up. Yeah, we can schedule that. Oh, Heather.
Oh, I just had a thought. If you folks have any ideas on how we can do the website presence for the Kona open space, please also include that in your comments, because that is something that we're working on coming into the next year. So
That might be something we should add to the scope of work too for the consultant.
as far as your timeline, Natasha, did I hear you say January or February or so?
Yeah,
Would be
I
the,
think we're targeting the end of January to have the consultant selected
Right.
and
Right.
hopefully contracted.
Okay, I was just looking forward, and I guess there's a timetable, at least an estimate of for meetings next year. I don't know how. Yeah, I see Keiko smiling because I know they're tentative, but if we get back to a monthly meeting, that's going to be a great improvement over where we are now, even if they are joint meetings. And so hopefully we can be at least in a process, even though it's not the ideal one. But we'll just have to see what kind of headway we can make. I'm holding out hope that, I got my booster yesterday, so time is moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other comments or questions for Natasha? Thanks for the update, and and particularly our subcommittee. You three ladies, I know how long you guys have been working on this, and it's refreshing to see it moving and people being assigned to it. I think that's something that's really encouraging as well. So, I appreciate your stick-to-itness to it for all these years, and all the frustrations you've had to endure. So let's hope we can see something really positive start turning next year. So if there are no questions or comments, I'm going to close that item and go into the next one, number 2, which is the action committee priorities. I believe Keiko, Heather, I think you circulated the letter, that 2018 letter to folks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
included in the calendar invite, and then we just put up a link to if the calendar invite isn't accessible to you.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason this is on here is because I've been kind of like bugging Keiko a little bit because we know we were doing things and cataloging it before COVID and for quite some time, and I just wanted to see if we were on a continuum. If this present committee can actually look backwards and say, hey, we've been making progress from some of the things the previous committees had set forth. So this letter was actually written in 2018, but it was only addressing capital improvement program. It was not meant to encompass all of the individual committee members' desires or the people that they represent. It was just something that we had at that moment in time, having to address a capital improvement funding. We looked at what was on the capital improvement list and sort of set some priorities based on that. You'll notice the first thing on this was the Kona open space plan. So I'm really, maybe it's coincidence or good planning, but it's on today's meeting. So we have a report on that. So I'm really happy, that at least we've made some headway. You'll notice the other things though, like the Kahului Keoho, the Li'i Parkway was on there. The Laco Street connector was on there. Ane Keoho Kalole Phase 3 was on there. These were infrastructure issues that were on the CIP, and we wanted to make sure that those were being followed through on, because the question was at the time, we are now prioritizing our funding, and we wanted to make sure that these did not slip through the cracks, because sometimes the funding comes from out of state, they lapse, and so we had put all of these onto that list. The progress we've made on that, I would not say is fantastic on there, but I know they're still on the drawing board and they're still lined to move, at least. But the Laco Street connection and the Kahului Keoho connector were sort of an integral, they went hand in hand. And of course, we did the work on the Ali'i Parkway, we'll call it that for now, but the corridor, which, Shane and myself, and we formed the subcommittee. So you guys know all the progress of that, where that all went, and it's really in the hands of the county. The Kailua Village redevelopment plan was really then again to close what had been ongoing at that time, because the redevelopment committee was not, interfacing very well with the planning department. So we wanted to, get better collaboration with that. And then the last one on there was affordable housing, which I think is probably more relevant now than it was maybe back then, due to all the things that have occurred. But the purpose is not to say, let's follow that. That's a blueprint for us. The purpose was to challenge our committee members to think about knowing where we came from, knowing where we are, what are our priorities? And, I wanted to sort of get you all involved in, at least thinking about it, and then how we might be able to, formulate that and maybe into a list of priorities, so that we as the committee can be focusing on certain important items. And we can also, employ the planning department to make sure that on our agendas that we are addressing some of these issues that may not come up to our committee meetings. So it was really a test our memories and challenge you guys. And I know you're taking a lot of input from communities. And I know on one of our last meetings, Franz even mentioned it. Franz had said, the people I'm talking to, affordable housing is one of their big issues. So that's really, I didn't want to bring it up to say this is progress that we made, but really more to this is where we were, 4 or 5 years ago, and get you guys to think about maybe placing, putting down more bookmarks. Excuse me, I'm going to go turn on the light. I'm working in the dark, as you guys can probably tell.
We all need to work in the light.
Yeah, well, that's not one of my fortes. So I don't know if you have any comments or questions or thoughts on that matter. Janice.
Charlie, by that matter, do you just mean affordable housing or anything about the priority?
Affordable housing is one of my personal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry.
I wanted to comment some. Okay, go for it. That wasn't why I put my hand up. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I heard what you said, but affordable housing was one of my personal priorities. But that's not meant to be the committee's personal, unless the committee themselves agree that that's an important thing that we want to put on a priority. And if you did, where would you put it? And realistically, if we come up with 5, that's probably more than anybody can handle, at any given time. But at least it, it kind of sets a true north for us and say, hey, these are the things that are important that we want to work on as that relates to the development plan. Yeah.
Well, I want to agree with you, Charlie, because I wasn't going to comment on affordable housing. I was going to bring up something else, but I think that as a worldwide and a nationwide, at least, situation, I think that's really on people's minds and should be as we face a lot of disparity. So, I think that was always one of the things that was prioritized in the CDP. And I think that that's, definitely anything for me, the things I was going to bring up, for me, it's getting the community back involved in this process is really, I think we've gone invisible for 10 years, and it's mostly, and I think that anything we can do to bring the community back and show them where the CDP actually fits with their lives, really can help their lives. And in that way, the county will get a much better idea. I mean, we can't really hold the county accountable for not doing these things if there isn't a lot of input coming from the community. And so we can really help make that happen. And I know, that's, well, anyhow, affordable housing is one of those things. And so that's great. I think that's a great.
Well, Janice, you were involved right at the foundation of the CDP. I know, you participate. Why did people get interested in the first place in the community? What was it? What was it?
I think it was traffic.
Oh, okay.
To tell you the truth, I think and not just traffic, but infrastructure. I think that the reason people came out is they were it was getting like it is now. Like, I think all of a sudden we just hit this wall where the traffic was crawling and the beaches were getting crowded, and there just wasn't guidance, and there was just approvals of things going on. There was no planning. That seemed like it was all piecemeal planning. I mean, the big message was that everybody wanted a plan. They wanted a place that we were going from, so that we knew where things could be developed, where things couldn't be developed, so everybody could just kind of have an idea of where we were headed. And I think, but what really at that point, everybody had just been going crazy in traffic. And that's why I think it might be a good time actually to get people back involved, because we're seeing such a huge influx right now of people. So, but other problems too, other issues and challenges as well.
Yeah, Kari?
So, yeah, I definitely see the necessity for affordable housing. I think, the other place I serve is on Kealakekee High School, SCC. And I think when we talk about issues of equity, that, we find that our students that don't have access to doing the extracurricular activities are at a clear disadvantage, not just going to college, but also just sort of the networks that they can be in and experiences that they can have. And I think, when you have high school kids that cannot get home and that transportation's an issue, that when we can, when I look at some of the apartment buildings and Hawaiian homelands around Kealakekee High School, that warms my heart. I think that this next affordable housing project that was discussed in the last meeting, and my question was, okay, where does the CDP help or hinder that kind of activity? And I think that is the kind of analysis, I'm going to repeat myself from last meeting, that needs to happen, so that we're not just saying we want it, but how do we actually make it happen? I think that's the question. And that this body needs to address the issues that are preventing affordable housing from happening. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, Janice?
Well, I think what Kari is saying is just right. And I think that the broader view, what came out of the original charrettes and all that, was that if we did have connected communities that were walkable and less like sprawl, that then there would be a way for children who don't have transportation or a way to get someplace would be able to connect and travel, move throughout their community without, having an adult maybe drive them someplace. And, I think that's part of the vision for TODs and TNDs. And that was one of the other priorities. However we decide to do it, we just really haven't focused on that. But I think walkable communities, that's how they happen, some sort of village design. I mean, Kari might, as an architect and being into that, she probably has some really good ideas and studying all that.
Yeah, just to be the devil's advocate, but you think TODs are applicable in West Hawaii, given the land ownership and what exists now?
I still do, Charlie, but you guys, I'd say like Kari knows more of the planning department, but I think as long as you have the vision, you can get closer to that idea. Like, I think just giving it up is not where we want to be. If we just want to just keep on building, minute stops from here to wherever, Waimea, then we will have failed completely. So even if we can't do a TOD or TND like this little circles, I still think there's a way to adapt it to Hawaii. I hope that we have the expertise somewhere, and because I know the vision was really there. That was really what held people together behind that. The whole CDP idea.
Chuck, you had your hand up. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chuck?
Yes, I just wanted to add, I also participated from the very beginning. West Hawaii Today really did a great job of covering the whole process and the planning department as well. So people really knew what was going on. But in addition to that, the TODs were not originally there. It was after we had a consultant that the county was using, and then suddenly they fired them and hired Wilson Okamoto, and they are the ones that came up with the TODs. And when the TODs were first introduced, the TODs were actually associated with the large landowners in that area. Those were removed because obviously that became a little controversial. But that's how the TODs got in there, just so you know, Charlie.
Yep. Well, thank you. That's helpful because we have been focusing our planning, our thoughts. I mean, we're not the planners, but our thoughts have always been around, zoning and infrastructure based on connecting TODs. So I'm looking at I think Janice, as we go down this list of things. Sorry, Shirley.
Yeah, I did want to comment too, because I agree that, we need to work on the area of affordable housing, and certainly the other groups that I belong to are very interested in this area and have a lot of data in this area as well. And so does the Office of Housing and Community Development. And what I see is kind of missing is that there isn't a comprehensive housing plan. And Maui has adopted one. And I looked at it, and it tells you that in the next 5 years, they need 50,000 affordable houses, and they're in different categories of income. And it has a roadmap of how they're going to get there. And I'd like to see something like that happen here. And if we at our CDP Action Committee could somehow research that and advocate it, and I think it may be coming up at some point in a bill in the county council. I don't know if that's true, Haleka, but I'd like to see us support something like that, because instead of just talking about this, and definitely we always need input, but that's what I see as missing, is getting us, there's different plans and everything, but not one that shows. And the other is, does Office of Housing or Planning have somewhere that we know what all the affordable housing projects are ongoing right now, and and how many more we need, and what I know that in all these reports there's a lot of roadblocks and everything, and how are we going to overcome some of these roadblocks? So that's what I would like to see.
Okay. Chuck, yeah.
I also wanted to say, Charlie, we had working groups for each section, and housing was one. And I have all the pala from that working group. And so what I'd like to do is bring it to you so I can keep it. I'm tired of storing it, and I want to put it to good use. And so I'll bring it. I'm not sure how I can get it to you, but I would love to to provide it to you.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I don't have my history doesn't go back as far as your and Janet's, though, because I know you guys were involved with it very early on, and perhaps some other people on the call. But I would like to see it because it may be a good starting point. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. One of the things that occurred, and I just got a note from Senator Hirono's office about the infrastructure bill, and perhaps you guys got it, and Build Back Better, and this the $1 trillion they're turning around. Who could have imagined we should be talking about trillions of dollars? Jesus. Anyway, there's tons of funds in there, and I'm thinking for the Build Back Better, some of these questions can be at least addressed, maybe not a solution, but the question can be addressed, like Shirley's saying. How do we come up with a comprehensive plan? I don't know that the planning department, I think they would be happy to do something like that, but it's just practically speaking, I don't think they have enough manpower to devote to what's, the existing challenges that they have, and then do, do this additional sort of outside contracting work. And maybe some of the funds that are coming out of these major funds out of Congress, we can attach maybe some consulting services that might, pay for us to have these things looked at in a very comprehensive way, and provide us maybe with a blueprint of how we want to go. Of course, we would provide the foundation and information to move forward. But I just see there's this funding opportunity, and I'm working on behalf of my community to see if I can, I can draw a straight line from Build Back Better to Kona without having all the little in-betweens. And I think that's going to be difficult. But Keiko, does the county have any sort of plans in terms of, I don't know where that would be, resides, research and development or someplace else, but to, to kind of access those funds? And can we then provide some input as to what we would like to see those funds be, structured for?
Yeah, I believe that there is a group within the administration who is working on it. But I think it's still too early to know, but they're trying to get set so that when things start rolling, we're ready with boots on the ground. So I can try and ask some questions and see what I can find out. And see
Yeah, that would
where our
be,
different roles are. Yeah.
okay. Janice, you were,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just
No,
gonna
go ahead,
add,
Keiko.
okay, I was just gonna add, if it's helpful, those working group papers might be valuable to a lot of us. One of the things that we're realizing as we're moving from the inception of the CDP onwards is that we're losing a lot of this history. And so, as Uncle Charlie said, I mean, Heather and I and Alexis, we're all fairly new faces, right? And you guys have been at this for years. And so what we're hoping to do is kind of continue to use you folks as resources. And so that's why it's the information and the knowledge that you hold around that period in time is valuable to oncoming AC members, to oncoming planning department staff. And so anyway, if it's helpful, Chuck, we would be willing to take those working group papers and scan them in and then make those files available to action committee members, public, whomever.
That might be fabulous. I'll bring them straight down to you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, wait, you're in Hilo though, aren't you?
We are, but you can take it to the Kona office and we can figure that out. Yeah.
Okay.
There'll be room in your garage to park your car now, Charles?
No, a place for me to sleep.
Okay. Yeah, I know how meticulous you are in keeping records, but thank you so much. I mean, that's going to be really helpful. I think it's really going to help us to understand, how we built up to where we are today. So that's a good thing. So,
So Charlie,
yeah.
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to add that Maui did have a consultant, and they used the Hawaii Community Assets, which is a nonprofit that works in this area and works with people to help them get housing and afford housing. And so with this money that hopefully we'll be getting for infrastructure and whatever, the Build Back Better plan hopefully gets passed, I think we would have the money to be able to move ahead, and the county would have it to hire a consultant like them to do this plan.
Yeah. Shirley, can you provide maybe some of the contacts that you involved in Maui, and maybe do they have any idea if someone's doing that work on this island, for this island?
Well, I'm thinking probably with the Vibrant Hawaii, that there's somebody there that's working on it, and somebody maybe even with county council working on it. I'm not sure, but
Right.
yeah. So, but if I can find the link for the plan itself, because I looked at it earlier today. I just Googled it and found it. So yeah,
Okay.
I can probably put that in the chat.
Great. Janice, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it would be really good. I think that this exercise of talking about priorities and related to the Build Back Better is really germane, and it's really timely. And that, if the county is preparing some something that they're going to the feds for, that this is a good time for us and the CDP Action Committee, but community to really get in there and reiterate what or clarify what our priorities are. So it's a great idea, but I just think that that's another place where our input could be helpful if we have more connection to the public, if we do that, if we can.
Great. Holeka, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to speak real quickly to, the discussion around affordable housing. And I sent in the chat a link to a resolution that the council passed last Wednesday, resolution 241. And this resolution kind of backed up the legislature's resolution from earlier this year, encouraging and urging our county level Office of Housing to pursue a study to look at how our inclusionary zoning policies have affected the development of affordable housing. And this, in regard to the study and the roadmap that was discussed by Shirley, this is something that the Office of Housing is interested and I believe are in the process of putting an RFP out to seek someone to take care of that, some kind of consultant. So that is in the works. At the same time, Councilmember Vegas and I think I had mentioned this in a previous meeting with you folks, that we are working and in fact getting close to providing some changes to our current Chapter 11 affordable housing chapter. So there's some movement on this front. But yeah, council members Leloy and Kerkowitz put this resolution forward and we passed it last Wednesday. So just kind of the update on the council side there.
Well, thank you very much for that report, because I guess I was largely unaware. Is there something that the Action Committee members can do either as a committee or as individuals to support or show support, or are you confident you guys going to get that through?
Well, once we get the bill onto the agenda, then hopefully, you folks and your circles can chime in to either support or improve it so that we can get it passed in the best way possible.
Oh, thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo to you. Thank you. So I'm very encouraged to hear that. So any other ideas or topic items that you think we should be sort of thinking about as important? Janice, you first, and then Chuck. You're on mute, Janice.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I think we keep getting back to, or at least I do, to outreach. I think, in the beginning, that was like one of the main essential parts of the plan. And there were lots of ideas, which we've talked about over the years. The newspaper was, putting out, messages, notices of the meetings, CDP meetings, and other things were going on. We even had a member that was was a videographer, was going to do videos, but the county, just for some reason, the planning director at the time didn't like that idea, but, could have been in Aleo or something like that. So I think, we really somehow, even though we have these COVID restrictions, I think that should be a priority to once again try. I know that's part of what that whole, the web thing that we've been working on was supposed to do, is bring people into here. I just feel like, as much as a good idea, it feels a little unsupported. It's not that, maybe, I don't know. I just think that going off on our own is what we are supposed to be doing, but maybe there needs to be a little bit more structure or backup or something to get that going. And maybe each member can't do it. Maybe it just needs to be the group more together. Like, say, if we do want to do a media thing, there might be a subcommittee that could focus on that, instead of just one individual saying, well, okay, I'm going to go get in touch with all my friends and groups. Because it's just, it's hard to find the time, and it's hard to know exactly what to do unless you're just that kind of person. Like, I think Shirley, she's like really, networking between a lot of groups, and that's just her life. That's awesome. But you know, my people at work don't care. I try, but I think outreach is really important. I also think the punk connection. I think that we, you know, and once again, I think that somehow we need to. That's something that's can be so real and so helpful to creating the open space network and everything that we're really looking at. So I just think somehow we should continue on with that focus. I think that's really important. Yeah, really important. And my last thing I would say is I think that the county, like, I really appreciate Keiko's, you know, desire to get in touch with the, you know, information from the past about the CDP, because I think it's easy to just move forward and just start over, reinvent the wheel, or not have heard what, you know, was really said by so many people. And to just, as much as we need to update our visions and goals, I think to also it's up to the AC to keep the county on track. Once again, you know, to just have them knowing that we are, you know, we're the ones that are, I mean, we can only convince them if we're connected to the public, but if we are connected to the community, then, you know, we need to make sure that the county is staying on the track that the community wants. We're just another way for them to do that, you know. So those would be my focuses.
Chuck, you had a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say that actually there was a consultant hired during the KCDP process, and there was a report that was generated. Of course, the data they had at that time is, you know, stale, but I think the concepts, and I believe that the KCDP actually called for a nonprofit to help facilitate the construction of so that's sort of in keeping what Maui's doing. But I also wanted to just a FYI, as far as priorities, let you know that there's a big effort going on right now among certain community members here in the county, and including in Kona, with regard to the wastewater treatment. You may have read that the county is being fined for the Bahala wastewater treatment plant, but the EPA is looking at the Hilo and the Kealakahe wastewater treatment plants, and as well. And Ramsey at the county has estimated there's $1 billion worth of infrastructure just related to wastewater treatment. So, you know, we've got the affordable housing issue, but then, you know, that's hanging over our heads as well. It's something that's going to have to be addressed as well. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think there's going to be some this is off the subject a little bit, but it is on affordable housing. I think, relatively speaking, there is, you know, there's a new well being proposed. There's a water use development plan that's going to be put forward by the county to the Water Commission. There's going to be hearings next week on the 16th. Am I right? Tuesday? Yeah, right. And there's going to be a meeting that's going to go to the county committee, and it's also going to be going to the Commission on Water Resource Management, CWARM. And in it, I think there's going to be, I think, some desire to look at water use more holistically. In other words, not where you take it from, where you're going to use it, where it's going to go, and how you're going to replenish the aquifer. So you know, we're trying to make the system sort of regenerative, as it were. Because right now we just take it, we use it, we pollute it, we don't clean it, we put it back, and maybe it goes on a golf course, or maybe it just goes right back down into the ground. Now, I'm speaking to the choir here, and I'm not suggesting we have any solutions to that. But I think unless you start asking questions like that, and you know, it doesn't get addressed. And I'm hoping, you know, we can do what we can to influence the county. The committee can, by, you know, taking these subject matters and saying, okay, these are important. But affordable housing ties in a lot of stuff, because there's equity involved. There's, you know, there's all kinds of even equity justice is involved in it. So environment justice. So it's a very complex issue, but it's not one I think that's out of reach. We have to discuss it, though. Janice?
Well, and I was going to say, isn't the wastewater treatment situation, wouldn't that be part of the Build Back Better plan and the money that could come from that? I mean, it just seemed like it's federal waters that it all flows into. Somehow those are connected. And would seem like, because that's the kind of funding you would expect to get help with from the feds, and this might be a extra good opportunity. But like you said, there are people really focusing on that, but for us to, connect with them and, just amplify the voices would be great.
I think it behooves us as individuals and maybe as a committee to go seek that out, because I'm not so sure it's going to fall on your doorstep. I'm going to rely on, staff here, not just here, but the other people that I kind of work with to try and keep me, up to date, because I'm very interested in how these funds are going to get distributed. I have no qualms about the county, receiving huge sums as long as they apply then, correctly to the needs of the community. And if that means another study, maybe that's what we need. But we certainly, I think there's going to be resources, financial resources. But yeah. Anyway, so anything else on this item at all? I think we massaged it pretty well. Huh?
Well, just have a thought. I just had another thought, because people are talking a lot about, besides the wastewater treatment, also getting rid of, rubbish, like getting rid of our, we don't have any recycling anymore and all that. And that also, I think it also has to do with the environmental justice and like so many of the things we're talking about. And somehow, I don't know how the CDP really can relate to that, but I also think it's something that people are really interested in now is waste, not just wastewater, but our other waste. And I mean, I'm just trying to think of topics that will bring people in that are really important, and they can build on other, connect with other topics like wastewater. So I don't know, I'm just putting it out there as a thought. Recycling and where to do it. I don't know. Not that we're going to get into recycling, but just how to relate that to land use and, other.
Well, I'm sure there's a big broad category that all this stuff will fit under, that we can maybe, call it pollution. I know, call it what you want, but find a word for it. But this stuff, it'll fit under there. Yes. So that was my comments on that one action item. I don't know if anybody else has any comments. We can move on to the next item. We all good? Okay,
with regard to the recycling, Christine Kubat and people working with her has actually put together a solid waste plan. I don't know what I think they're fixing to present it. So perhaps I could contact her and see if she'd be willing to do a presentation to the KCDP on that matter, or at least send you all an update on what they're doing.
I think that would be perfect. Okay, so I will need to circle back, I think, with staff on some of the issues here, and just and then maybe I can help qualify and quantify. So if we're done with that one, the next one was the implementation updates from the action committee members on, am I on the right one? Yeah, I am. So we had affordable housing under here, and we had flood mitigation and erosion control. I think the affordable housing, we've kind of kicked that one around enough, and I think we know it's a priority. So at this point, there's not really much to report on in terms of progress. The flood mitigation and erosion control plan, that we got into the middle of that a while back, didn't we? And I'm looking to Shirley and maybe to Kari, and that we had that issue with FEMA and the redrawing of the flood maps, and there was some inaccuracies in it. And then I thought what we had commissioned ourselves to do, or commissioned them to do, was to revisit that and make sure that all the information on those maps was correct.
Well, we formed a subcommittee in the last meeting.
Yeah,
right.
we did.
And so Shane is heading that up.
Okay.
And so I no movement as far as I am aware of. And so
okay.
and I don't know if he was having trouble getting a hold of George Yasuda, or anyway, I know he was trying to set stuff up, but I never got invited to a meeting. So I think
Okay.
it's timed
Right,
out.
because you were going to be on that subcommittee, right?
Correct. I'm on that subcommittee.
Yeah, you're on that one too. And I'm just looking at the minutes. Was it just the two of you? I don't see.
Correct. Shane was the lead, and I was
Shane
just a
was
member.
leading, and you, right. Mhm.
Shall we send out a reminder to Shane? I wasn't at the last meeting, so.
Yeah,
Shame
no,
on
I think he's aware. I just
Yeah.
know that, in that, from that time to now, there was no movement. So that's all I know.
Okay, all righty. Chuck?
Yes, I just want to let you know, I had reached out to Shane and Sue Aronson had called me, as I mentioned earlier, so I think she wants to be a part of that. I also have this newspaper from 2004. South Kona, rain, flood, South Kona. So Charlie, it happens all the time. So it's definitely an issue we need to get on eventually somehow.
You could cut that headline out and paste it to a newspaper a couple of months ago, and it would have been the same thing. So
yeah, exactly.
we recognize that.
Yeah.
And you look at the topography over here, especially in Honau now, man. I mean, that's a challenge, just the slope and drainage and what have you. But I'm sure there's more that can be done. Okay, so we can close that item unless folks got more input, they want more comments. And then the last one was the review of the current action committee members' terms and how long, I guess, I can't read that, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, around 22 AC proceedings. So I asked, I'm confused, and I'm not sure I'm the only one as to what the terms are. I think, Keiko, I think you made the comment that most all of us are holdovers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I'm excited because your last conversation around priorities and the conversation that was happening around that is directly related to what we were hoping to talk about on this business item 4, but kind of being creative and forging new pathways of how we can work together. And so part of that was terms, but that's not the most important part, in my eyes anyway. In my eyes, it's the creative stuff that you guys are talking about small groups. If we are allowed to meet back in person, how do we do that? There are some things around sunshine law that are changing, and we haven't been completely briefed on that yet. But it's possible there will be a combination of Zoom and in person. And so we're trying to figure out the logistics of that. I think some of the related to the broadband conversation, there are some new regulations coming in from Sunshine that at least a quorum of folks have to have their cameras showing at all times. So different things like that. We have to do audio roll call, an audio vote on items, just so that folks who are tuning in can understand who's present and who's talking, who's voting in which way. So anyway, we'll have more training on that and we'll pass that information along to you guys. But now I forgot what I was saying. But anyway, the ideas that you folks are having around how we continue to work together. I think one of the things that we hate to say the most is that we don't have the capacity. And so Heather and I are putting on our rainbow hats and we're like, this is our capacity. What can we do? How can we better support each other and the work that we're all doing? And so trying to be creative in that. And I think you guys are already kind of sharing some of those ideas. So if you want to review terms, Heather has a document that she can pull up real quick that will just kind of show everyone their terms. We don't have any, we haven't been pushing for recruitment for Kona Action Committee, because you guys have all been working so hard and the seats have been filled. And so we have other action committees who aren't even seated yet. And so we've been kind of pushing in those areas. But we do understand that many of you have been holding over for maybe even longer than your actual term was. And we certainly appreciate that, but we know that it can get tiring and we don't want to overtax anyone. And so part of our outreach to you guys is going to be requesting that we have like one-on-one talk story sessions to kind of find out how you're feeling. We can talk about different ideas about how we implement, how we get out into community, how we re-engage in a more kind of fruitful way. So we'll be trying to set those up sooner rather than later so that we can kind of plan ahead as we talk about priorities for 2022 and how we work to implement those. So yeah, so everybody except for Franz.
Yeah, so let me just offer up my personal take on this, because I think I've been on the committee long enough. But for the sake of continuity and because of the way COVID has structured us or forced us to structure ourselves, I committed to staying on as long as it's necessary to get a good transition through. I don't need to be chair. I can contribute as in fact, I'd like to start transitioning out so that we give everybody an opportunity to, accept that responsibility. But long story short, I think the challenges that staff are facing, with regards to trying to piece everything together via the vehicle that we're using, on the line and all the new things that come along with it. I think to add to that, well, we want you now to go out and start recruiting replacements, I think is maybe a burden that we can defer a little bit. So that was my comment. And so I'm willing to stay on. I'm not suggesting any of you take that to as a lead, but those are my comments. And I said that to Keiko, and it's just because I feel there's a lot of things that are in motion, and some things that are hopefully about to happen, and you'd like to be there when they do. So maybe that's selfish, but anyway, but it's for each individual member. So as far as being holdovers or holdouts, I think each individual's got to decide them for themselves. But I certainly I'm certainly willing to just kind of continue. But I would like to get back to in person as soon as we can, and certainly schedule a more regular schedule, which I see we have at least proposed for 2022. Hey, Janice.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. That was a lot of good points. I feel like I would like to stay on the committee. I feel the same way as Charlie, like trying to see things through. And we had such a big disruption. I don't ever want to discourage people from joining the action committee. At the same time, I think still having the historical voices is important for the continuity of this plan. Just from being involved in other issues and just seeing how you can just start to reinvent the wheel and I don't know, like just lose the thread. And not that this isn't supposed to be a static document. It's not supposed to be about control, but it really has such a huge history that was so grueling and so full, like there's just so much that's gone till now. But I think, I would probably say that for just peace of mind and just knowing what was happening because we have so many other things in our lives, that I would rather say like, okay, if you want to stay on, 2 years, it will be 2 years, because I think it would be really disconcerting to also just find out that you were after you kind of commit and wanted to do this, to just find out there's a nominee and, appointee. And you know, you go through this process, and that would be, if that would just be also kind of disconcerting. I mean, unless it could be great, but you know, like if you want to focus, if you want to put yourself into it, you have to devote a bit more energy.
Yeah.
David had his hand up, Keiko.
Okay.
First, David?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I unfortunately have to step away, have another call, but I agree. I'd like to stay on also. Same with Janice. I think it's, I think quite honestly, myself and Franz, I think we're one of the last people coming on board, and we feel like we've just barely got our feet wet into this whole process. So there's more work to be done, and I agree there continuity and keeping as many of the I guess you could say kapuna the committee members involved would be really helpful. So thank you, Charles, of all your contribution. And Charles, I'm amazed that you actually pulled out a newspaper from 2004 that was sitting right nearby. That means you really do need to move stuff out of your house.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you for another great evening, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting. I'm going to be attending the meeting by Vibrant Hawaii. I believe it's next Tuesday. So I'll be attending that meeting. So looking forward to it. So unless there's anything else, I'd just like to say aloha.
Okay. Keiko, you had a comment, and are we losing quorum?
Yes, I was just gonna say that with that we'll lose quorum. So just real quickly, we can talk about this individually, but I just wanted to say, you know, our terms are defined by code, and so unfortunately I can't make any promises about how long everyone will be able to stay on. But certainly the continuity factor is important to us, and so I just want to put out that if new members are applying and getting on, it doesn't mean that we are not going to engage with anyone who's not on the committee anymore, because I think what we're finding more and more is that we need to create, even between an outgoing member and an incoming member, that there needs to be some sort of mentorship, because that transfer of experience and knowledge needs to happen. And so we're trying to figure that out, how we can better implement that, but we're hoping that will help with that. So I don't know if we have time to pass the minutes before David has to sign off. That's like the...
If we can do it quickly, I could stay. I have to be on a 6:30 call.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes of, what was it, September 9th?
I move. Go ahead.
Okay. We have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. We have to do roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. I counted David, Janice, Carrie, Shirley, and myself. And Marissa?
Yes, aye.
Thank
Oh,
you.
actually, I'm sorry. My screen was not having the camera off. So with Marissa, we do still have, I just wasn't seeing it because her camera was off.
Okay, so we still have quorum.
5, yep.
Okay.
Sorry, thanks, David.
Thank you
Okay,
all.
David. Thank
Aloha.
you. Aloha. Okay, so Keiko, when do you think that's going, these new sort of Zoom rules are going to come through, or
Oh, they're supposed to begin in January. So we
Okay.
have a training set for ourselves sometime soon.
okay, great.
And then what I'm hoping to do is have Corporation Council come out to the joint AC meeting and kind of give an overview for everybody.
Okay,
There's not very
great.
many new rules, but there are some that we might have to try and figure out how to implement.
Janice, you have your hand up. Oh, you mute.
Sorry, I don't do this enough. I do it enough. Not enough to learn better. Yeah, going back to if I could just go back to the AC member, the term limits, and just how that would work out. I think that like tonight, being able to include Chuck as somebody that is that has the ability to speak. I just have never liked the format of the meetings where we did it like the county council or the planning commission. I feel like that's really non-inclusive, and a thing that's like, it's a different kind of a, community development plan, I think should be different. I always have. And so I just, I wouldn't mind if, I wouldn't mind if we don't get a vote. I don't get a vote usually, but just being able to engage in the conversation, because I mean, when you're sitting on your hands, you just know you have things to add, especially, I do, but I mean, not that I have to, but there are things that are good. That I think just being able to do that would at least help, and that would help make a transition to, it would be part of that passing along, the knowledge and information or just the background. So I would feel comfortable, way more comfortable if that was part of the format. But I know that the AC can also change their format if they want. I mean, that's another thing about the beauty of the plan, is that we do have an ability as a group to just make changes, in the way we do handle the meeting. So that's just my thought.
Thanks, Janice. Shirley?
So I think also we have the ability to be active on the subcommittees, even if we don't continue on, and maybe we want to encourage that, especially those of us that are so happy that we're actually getting a consultant for our subcommittee and starting to look at that. So there's places that we can all participate, even though, because I think it's also good to have new blood as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Keiko, you keep us informed of those processes and how that's moving.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, the last agenda item, unless anybody else has gotten to add. And then there's, I guess the next item was the agenda for the next meeting. Does anyone have any suggestions at this point they'd like to get onto the agenda, or? Kari?
Charlie, just my comment, following up with the comment about sort of solid waste and recycling. And since that's an island-wide issue, that kind of topic is really appropriate for the all island AC meeting. It's not specific to Kona CDP. It's an all island thing. And so that's where, when we have the all island meetings, that's when that's very appropriate, because it's really a report, or, it's informational. And so that's where I just want to make sure that we're structuring those kinds of topics that are appropriate for the island-wide meetings. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
No, I think that's a good point. And the next meeting's on the 19th of January, at least on this schedule. So maybe that's something we can put on the agenda for that. It's a joint AC meeting. So I'm thinking that's the island-wide.
Yeah. So Chuck, if you don't mind, if I reach out to you and we can talk story maybe about the presenter you were talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think all of us have some homework to do. I think playing off of Janice's the outreach thing is something we all individually just got to work on. But so anything else for a new agenda? Again, hopefully we can hold for the next schedule, the agenda that's been proposed. At this point, I don't have anything that I can think of. Anyone here? Janice?
Well, maybe, I don't know if we want to do this, but to focus on what our priorities are, to get that list honed down a little bit and really start to dig into that. I mean, we know there's so many things, but I mean, we brought up a lot of good things. We could consolidate some. I think what Kari said was really good about, like, that's something that could be taken out of the, I mean, we have different two sets of priorities and how they can be handled. I think that's something we should continue to discuss and work on, not just discuss.
Okay, so I guess my suggestion is that each of us work on we did this once before, each of us work on what we, considered to be a priority. I would say limit it to 5, only because it's practical, but you feel free to put as many as you like, but I think 5 is going to be realistic. I mean, you can put 3, and then let's all kind of put that together and maybe send it to either Heather or to Keiko. And then if you guys can sort of synthesize that together so that we come out with sort of something that, that looks like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of overlap anyway. And then we can, is that something we can have access to before the next meeting? Well, our next meeting is not till February, so let's give ourselves some deadlines, yeah?
Yep, and I think we can do a lot of the work in between the meetings so
Okay.
that once we get
Yeah.
to the meeting, we're kind of have a pathway forward. So we can help to kind of facilitate that for sure.
Yeah, Janice?
Sorry. I was also thinking, the general plan, like, if we don't have a meeting until February, is there gonna be more update, or should that be on the agenda, something that we can discuss? Is there gonna be something specific by then?
At this point, I don't have a timeline, but as soon as we have a timeline, definitely we'll let you guys know. And if we can agendize, certainly we will, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, folks. We actually got 28 more minutes. But I'll entertain an move for the agenda to adjourn.
Oh,
Is there?
I move that we adjourn whatever time it is, 6:29, 6:33.
Yeah. All right. A second?
Second.
Okay, well, all in favor, we'll adjourn. This meeting's adjourned. I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Turkeys are free at Sack and Save if you have a coupon. So Thanksgiving's right around the corner. And enjoy the holidays if I don't see you or if we're not in contact. I really appreciate you guys' support. And,
Vice versa, Charlie. Thank you. And
yeah,
all the
well,
staff too. Thanks, Heath.
yeah, staff especially. Have a great Christmas. And Alexis, are we going to see you on the next meeting?
You'll see me as a community member.
Okay. All right. All righty. Okay, folks.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thank
Mahalo.
you. Take
Aloha.
care.
Aloha.